That's one of the things that lots of people get wrong about storytelling, particularly in business, is they don't spend time in discovery. Paradoxically, the discovery part of that is going to make it really successful. So the longer that you can spend getting into the hearts of people, the better.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name is Rick Nuske. I'm the host of the show, and I tell you what, do I have somebody special on the line with me today? I have Leticia Mooney. How are you, Leticia?
I'm well, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, it's an absolute pleasure. When I was looking at your bio, as we've just spoken about, you love your heavy metal, you love all of that stuff, and my heart was just pounding. I thought, I have to speak to this individual. And I tell you what, as soon as we started chatting, we hit it off. We were talking about some wonderful bands, and we're going to, I guess, deep dive into a little bit of that and how it forms part of your life. But right. We normally start off, Leticia, by sharing a little bit about yourself. Would you mind talking with us about, I guess, your background, where you are, and how it came to be that you're doing what you're doing today?
Sure. I'll give you the short version because then that will give you scope to ask questions. So right now I am at the helm of a content studio called BRUTAL PIXIE, and it is exactly what it sounds like, a brutal pixie. Our branding has a pixie with a cleaver with blood on it.
And, very good.
And the reason that I'm in this business now is because I've always been a publisher at heart, and that's where I began. I'm trained as a professional writer and editor long time ago now. And over the course of my career, I've worked in some form of publishing and or marketing. The work that we do now is content marketing and content creation for people, particularly case studies, which we specialize in. And throughout the journey, I've done all kinds of crazy things. I launched a global music magazine, which has a very offensive name, which I won't repeat right now.
I've noticed that, yes.
And that was a sensation, and I sold that in 2010. I've run publishing houses, I've had startups, I've done all kinds of stuff. But the reason that history is so important is because the case studies that we specialize in now are built on a career of interviews and conversations with people that are very, very meaningful. And that's what gives our clients really intense value from the case studies that we create. So that's kind of where I am now. And mixed into that, I've released 3 books. I've just finished writing a radio drama. I've done like all sorts of other amazing things.
Weird and wonderful things. So where in this wonderful wide world of ours are you located?
I'm in Adelaide.
Well, there you go.
In South Australia.
How's that? We're just around the corner from each other, I'm pretty sure.
I know. I think you're just down the road. How funny.
This probably explains why we have such a strong signal.
Probably.
Oh, that's great news. Now, I wonder, you talked here about storytelling, and it seems to be something that a lot of people get right, but so many entrepreneurs and business owners get wrong. Could you tell us a little bit about the importance of storytelling?
Yes. Okay. So the best way to explain that is the way that most business owners understand, which is their 30-second networking pitch, right? Lots of people go into sales, and you go into a networking room. Imagine we're in a room. You walk in and someone says, "Hi, Rick, what do you do?" And you go, "Oh, I do this and I do this and I do this." One thing that you haven't done is the discovery bit. You don't know whether your story is going to fit with that person. You don't know if they already have an intense understanding of what you do, or if the words that you're using are going to just bounce off them and they've got no idea what they mean. And because you haven't asked any questions. And that's one of the things that lots of people get wrong about storytelling, particularly in business, is they don't spend time in discovery. Paradoxically, the discovery part of that is going to make it really successful. So the longer that you can spend getting into the hearts of people, the better. And there's a lot of stories. Sorry, won't use the word stories. There's a lot of education online about using data Yeah. Like these people buy this and this is where they hang out and, you know, this is what they click on online. And so people create personas that are very functional. What they tend not to do is go and hang out in forums like in Reddit, where people are talking about their professional or personal problems and getting advice from other people like them. And what you find in those forums is the language that people use, the kinds of problems that they actually have, the types of questions that they're asking. And it's when you start getting into that lifestyle, it's like getting into their spirit. And when you get into their spirit, then you can craft a narrative that actually really fits. Because you know, for example, that there's a marketer in this state over here who has been asked to do this amazing campaign, but actually doesn't even know how to demonstrate that to their boss because their boss can't even give them the money to do it.
Yes.
How do they do that? It's that kind of thing. And so what we get is a lot of surface and we don't get a lot of detail. And so the storytelling looks glossy and it's very nice. And it might even have a beginning, a middle and an end. It might even have a problem and a solution, but it's not quite in the hearts of the people that are going to pick it up. And that's really where people get it wrong.
Yeah, it lacks a soul and there's this almost contrived nature about it, isn't there?
It's very glossy.
Yeah.
And, you know, humans aren't glossy. Humans are messy. Oh. And, you know, like I said to someone, I was on another podcast recently and I described to the host that people need to stop being so afraid of offending people.
Is this you know, is it one of these things that would form this as being vulnerable?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, I wonder, I see many people writing books and it's almost very cookie cutter when I'm reading it. It's like I know what the next chapter is going to be. There's no heart, soul in the writings that I'm reading. But, you know, this is where it all stops with Brutal Pixie, no doubt.
Yes. And it does make me wonder whether that's also partly one of the outcomes of what is happening in society at the moment, which is this idea that you can't just have a hobby, you have to make money from your hobbies. And I think that's a very dangerous thing too, which does lead to soulless work.
Yeah, so you're talking about what was the motivation behind you doing what you're doing?
Yeah. And if it's a business book, are you writing a business book because you believe it's a business card? Or are you writing a business book because you actually have something to share with people? That's a really big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sit here thinking about this quite carefully, and I'm wondering, you know, a lot of people create these books and they even get ghostwriters, so they don't actually ever have pen to paper. Is it something that you think that, you know, quote unquote, the author, if they get a ghostwriter, should actually play some part in?
Well, I'll turn that around if I can. If you're working with a ghostwriter who's worth his or her money, they will spend an enormous amount of time with you.
Right.
They will do deep interviews. They will trail you around. They will ghost you for a while, which they have to do not only to understand your voice and how you naturally speak and write, but also to understand who you are. What's your life? What's your business like? That kind of stuff. There are a lot of books. There is one I read recently called The 50th Law, which was apparently a collaboration between 50 Cent and the writer Robert Greene. And it was very clearly apparent that Robert Greene, who, by the way, is an amazing writer, had spent perhaps 2 hours with 50 Cent. And so there was one story that was the entire book. And it was to Greene's absolute credit. I'm such a fan. It was to his absolute credit that he got an entire book out of it.
Talk about stretching it out.
Stretch it out. It was just, it was quite thin. And that's the real risk. So yes, absolutely. If you employ a ghostwriter, be prepared to spend A, big bucks, and B, lots of time in order to get the best possible outcome. Because, you know, the best ghost-written works are the ones where you don't know they were ghost-written. Yes,
absolutely. And in our world today, Leticia, we have so many different formats and media options. Is there one media option that's better than the other, like hardback, audio, or video?
That's books? A really difficult question, isn't it? There was I can't remember his name right now. I'm sure I will remember it. A very famous psychologist who suggested that the popularity of audio is only going to increase. And he suggested that the reason for audio being so popular is because it reduces barriers for people. You know, there are a lot of people in the world who don't read at a very advanced rate.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people at the helm of multi-million dollar companies who don't read beyond a grade 5 level. There are people who don't have time, believe they don't have time to read. I should say believe they don't have time. And so audio is accessible provided you can hear.
Yes.
And most people understand it very, very well. Having said that, I think there is real value in almost comes back to where's your audience?
Yeah.
So there's a wonderful, wonderful woman who used to work for me until recently. She left because she makes enough money out of her novels that she doesn't have to work for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't hate her. It's such a great reason. She's standing to earn $200,000 this year off her books. Wow. She's an independently published author. She published them all herself. And for the longest time, the only place she published was Kindle. She didn't have physical books at all, which meant she didn't even have ISBNs, which are the standard business book numbers that allow booksellers to find your books. She didn't even have those for her books. She was just publishing on Kindle for a Kindle audience. And that's because her audience is paranormal romance, and that's where they are. They're women, typically, who read stupid amounts, because they have a Kindle. It's very fast. They can carry it with them everywhere.
Yes.
They might have children. It doesn't matter. They can just jump in and out. And so the volume of their reading is astronomical.
Yeah.
So if your audience is like that, then if you're producing hard copies or podcasts, you will totally miss your audience.
Yeah.
So it always comes back to that question of where are they? What pool are they swimming in?
Yeah, I thank you so much for sharing those ideas, because I know that the My Future Business audience often ask the question, you know, what is the best media option? I say the only thing I would say to that is that I presumably you need to test.
Yeah, I would test it and do the reading. You know, if you're looking to publish, whatever your genre is, there are organizations available that can give you data about trends. What are the top rating genres? What are the top rating consumption patterns? Those kinds of things. It's worthwhile doing the research to find it, because if you have the perfect idea, hitting the perfect trend at the perfect time, but you're doing it in the wrong place, you're still not going to make a splash.
You're talking to a brick wall, aren't you?
Totally, yeah.
I'd love to, if we could, Leticia, just jump into content marketing and publishing and how they are, I guess, related but different.
Yeah, that's a great question to do. So content marketing, let's unpack what content marketing is, yeah?
Yeah.
So content marketing is typically seen as the activity of creating content with which to market your business. So that might be podcasts or books or videos or blogs or press releases or whatever other weird and wacky things you might imagine. And very often it's viewed as at a campaign level. So if you have a very busy marketer, all marketers in most SMEs particularly are so flat out busy. They are handling not just the content creation stuff or the subcontractors to create it. They're thinking about doing it in multiple channels. They're thinking about the SEO. They're thinking about cost per click advertising. They're thinking about sponsorships and opportunities and potential media. They're herding cats, trying to get the people in the business to give them material. They're doing all of this insane stuff, and they're doing it by themselves. So often by themselves. Sometimes people are lucky enough to have a team if they're large enough. But most people that I've been speaking to, they're by themselves. And so what we take from that is they're doing loads and loads of things. How much of it are they doing extremely well? That's the first question. But if you were to see this as a publishing activity, then the first thing that you have is a business within a business, because publishing is a business. The second thing that you have is a direction. So where content marketing is campaign-based, publishing is about having a strategy and a set of values and a mission, just like your business does. And you have editorial priorities. So those editorial priorities really ought to match back to the vision and mission of your and purpose of your business, right?
Yeah.
So when you see it like that, you actually have this business in miniature inside your business. And from that perspective, you can then see the landscape from a much more zoomed out perspective. It allows you to say, okay, these are the types of fans that we want. I call them fans because it's better to have fans who spend money with you forever than to have bits of people who click through because you're giving something free away.
Yes.
Ugh.
The clickbaiters.
The clickbaiters, I call them floaters. They float around.
Yes.
They take the free stuff.
Yeah, and they're gone forever.
They're gone forever. Yay, business.
So which of those two, out of the content and the publishing, do you give them like an 80-20 ratio, 20% of your time focused on this, 80% on the rest? How does that work in your mind?
I think that's a smart way to view most of your activities in business anyway. I think as a publisher, if you look at things as a publisher, then you say, okay, I want these people and here's why I want them. And here's how I feed them the things that they want. As a marketer, you tend to look at the business and the things you want to sell and why you want to sell them. And so when you flip the model around a little bit, as a publisher, you can then focus on the activities that you know are going to reach those people, light their hearts on fire, and get them to attach to you in a much more effective way. And sometimes that's difficult for people to understand because so much of what business is bringing our things to the market and hoping people buy them. Unless they've come out of, the lean startup process, in which case they've gone out of the building to discover what people want and then they're supplying the need. That would be amazing.
That would be awesome. That's maybe the best way to do it.
Maybe. So as a publisher then, you then say, okay, no worries, we've got this thing. We have all of these options. There are all of these marketing trends. And every guru online says they're all essential, right? You must do audio, you must do video, you must do these explainers in this way, you have to do these funnels with all of this content that you spend thousands of dollars to create to give away. And they talk about clicks and nobody talks about real revenue, which is a real problem. And as a publisher, you then go, okay, we have this landscape. We know we want these people and we know that this is why this is so valuable to them. Then the next step from that is, what are our capabilities? If you have someone in your business who has an amazing radio voice and you know that you have an audience that consumes loads of audio, podcasts, audiobooks, radio stations, whatever they are, and you have the recording capability, go hard on audio because that's going to be the low-hanging fruit for you.
Yeah.
It's much easier to do that than to say to your amazing audio capable person, let's do books. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, that gets me fired up.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. And it's so hard for them. And they spend all their time and effort trying to work out how to do it and, monetize it. But if they went hard on their capabilities, they would do it easily. It would be more fun. They would have more people engaged. And so that's what the 80-20 rule really looks like. It comes down to capabilities. Yeah. And you can see that in major publishers around the world. When Facebook told the whole world video is the king because Facebook wanted to sell lots of ads and not necessarily because people were consuming it. Everyone went, video's the thing.
Let's do video.
Let's do video. And publishers all around the world built on these video recording capabilities they didn't naturally have, that their audience wasn't necessarily consuming. And they were massive financial failures.
Yes.
Not surprising.
And you see it all around us, video is king, video is king. And I question that. I think that's a really great insight that you've shared with us. Now, I would love to go deeper into that first time you meet a new client and the exploration phases that you take them through. Could you talk us through that process a little bit?
Sure. What type of client are we talking about? Are we talking about a person who wants content,
are you dealing with traditional bricks and mortar and online? Who is
Absolutely. Nearly all of our clients are remote, which is awesome.
Which is good news.
Yeah.
So if they're a bricks and mortar style business, now I know there's a fair bit of transition going on. The traditional bricks and mortar business owner is saying, well, hang on, if I'm not online, where am I? So they're recognizing the value of being online. Say that person came to you and they have a nursery, and they've said, look, I want to get online. I want to do this with you. What does the onboarding process look like from Brutal Pixie?
Great question. The first thing I do is spend an hour with them. It sounds like I grill them. I don't really grill them. I'm quite good at interrogating people in a conversation. Thanks to my journalism years. Anyway.
I can imagine.
It's a very deep discovery process.
Mm-hmm.
We go through lots of questions that start at the top. Do you have a strategy? What's your vision? Why is this important to you? What are your capabilities? What type of thing are you looking for, and why are you looking for it? And that first conversation gets them talking a lot about what they're doing and how they see their business. It surfaces a lot of information. For example, don't have a strategy, don't have a business plan, never really thought about it. Business coach told me I need to do this. Ooh, oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. If their vision is really Facebook or Instagram or social media, those kinds of things, we will refer them to someone else, because we don't do social media.
Yep.
And there are so many people who do it extremely well that comes back to capabilities again. And if they are really interested in, let's say they're a nursery owner and they really want to reach people who, I don't know, they want to build urban farms. So they want the permaculturalists, who have huge needs. They buy lots of dirt and fertilizer and hardware and trees, and their spend would be enormous, I'm imagining.
Mm-hmm.
They want to reach those people. Now, the challenge with those people is that they have lots of options, particularly online. You look at, there's the Diggers Club where they can get special things free, and, bananas that grow in this climate that no one else has, stuff like that. So their challenge will be to prove to them that what they can do for those people is really valuable. And one way that they might be able to do that might be through a case study, for example. Let's say they've worked with a permaculturalist and they did supply everything that they did for them. Then a case study would take them through why that person chose to work with these people, how they made that decision, what was that decision-making pathway, and what was the cost, and how did they work together, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That would work extremely well, because one thing I've noticed is that you can do all the blogs in the world on a website, but if you are serving the needs of a customer, what you actually want to do is to hit their decision-making moments. Case studies are really powerful for that.
Yep.
So if they were looking for something like that, that's the direction we would take them in. If they were looking just to make their business visible because they already have good flow through, they have good revenue, they just want to be active online,
mm-hmm.
then perhaps a blogging cycle is the way to go. Perhaps they do interviews. Maybe they have a penchant for audio. Maybe they do interviews with people who grow trees or plants or create worm poo or something. There might be something that they are deeply interested in. So the onboarding process goes through this huge discovery process. If they choose to come on board with Brutal Pixie, I have trying to create the best customer experience in the market. That's my vision. So it's very high touch. they are onboarded with a series of communications, and the communication is very high touch for our clients generally. So they always feel like they are in control of the work, which is something that if you've ever worked with a business like ours, tends not to happen. And
Yes.
lots of business owners have experiences having worked with digital agencies or web developers or whatever. And what happens is they go, great, I found this great developer, they're amazing. And they spend between $600 and 10 grand with these people, and they disappear for like 8 weeks.
Just like magicians.
Just like magicians. And during that time, there's this amazing thing that humans do. They're like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Should I contact them? Do you think I should contact them? They'll ask all their friends and family, do you think I should call them to find out? Is that rude? You know, then, yeah. And meanwhile, the people who have taken their money are probably doing great things, but the customer is going, maybe this was a bad idea. I'm not sure this was a good spend. And that's when they kick into a cycle of buyer's regret.
Oh, yes.
So typically the outcome of that is that even if the end result is amazing, they're not going to be happy with it, and they will ask for lots of changes. And so our process totally reverses that, and they're involved hardcore from the beginning, and they're always involved because we want them to trust us and to trust the outcome. And which comes back to why if something doesn't fall into our ballpark, we have absolutely no hesitation in saying, you know what, that's not us.
It's not a good fit for us.
Not a good fit. We know someone who is the king at that.
I love this this idea that you're having high touch points, and you're essentially talking about true relationships, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
When you talk about these case studies, this is where we compile all of the things we know about a client and I guess their touches of social proof and their story and what their business is about, what they have to offer. Is that what the case study is intended to do?
Yeah, in a sense. It's like a showcase. And lots of people love to say the happy story. Case studies are really powerful when they have moments where things weren't great. And I say that because they become kayak moments. They're those moments where people roll over and they keep going anyway. So they have a case study is really, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you find these people? What caused you to make a decision to work with them? What was the experience of working with this business? It's the type of thing few people think to write about. And if you were to write it about your own business, people would say, yeah, but you wrote that. You know, it's not real. If it comes from your customers, it's a little bit like taking a referral online. So you go from person to person. It's still person to person, but it's the next level up. It's a trusted story from someone else. The way that we create them is our people who buy them from us, they're not involved at all. They facilitate an introduction and then they go away. And we do all of the admin, all the arranging, all the interviews, all the story getting from their clients. So what that facilitates actually is a true story.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sitting here getting excited and thinking, where do I sign up for this?
Yeah. And, you know, the difference, I have to point out, there is a human courtesy bias. It's a human bias. It's psychological bias, where if you, Rick, were to ask your customers for their experience, they look at the relationship that they have with you and they want to keep that in a nice place. So they'll tell you what they think you want to hear because they're being nice.
Yeah.
And they think they're helping you because they're keeping this relationship in place. If you introduce a third party into that and you say, this person's going to talk to you about your experience and we're not involved, like just go and have a chat, they will then tell the third party the true story because we don't have a relationship. We're not invested in their relationship with you.
There's no bias.
No bias. So for them to be helpful, they'll be honest.
Oh, wow. That makes you wonder about the validity of all the testimonials that anybody's ever gotten.
Bingo. Or reviews as well.
Oh, look, this has just been an absolutely cracker call to say the least, Leticia. Now, when people find you, they will go to your website, brutalpixie.com. What will they find when they get there?
They'll find a big sales blurb about our case studies, because that's the core product. That's what we do. They will also find if they go to the website, there's a little link right at the top called Daily Tips. And I think there's a pop-up as well. And there's lots of warnings on it. Don't sign up if you can't stand a sales pitch, blah, 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 just so that you understand what you're getting into. But if anyone is after tips or advice and stories and questions and guidance, those kinds of things, they can sign up to that. It's free. They get an email one a day, 6 days a week. It's a lot of email, I have to say. But that's hands down the best way to hear about how to view your work as in content marketing as a publisher. And, there's lots of cool offers I give away, links to software that I personally use and tips, those kinds of things.
Yes.
Lots of cool stuff.
Yes.
And for your listeners, Rick, I decided that if the first 20 people who sign up will get a copy of my handbook, Brilliant Blogs, which is about how to create strategic blogs that clients and prospects love. And it's really the secret sauce on how to do that if blogging is your thing. I'm
looking at that there on the list of the bio here. Thank you so much for offering that to our audience, Leticia. I have to say again, this has been a cracker call. Leticia, thank you so much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business Show today.
It's been loads of fun, Rick. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.